You know that image, right? The one you dream about all week at your desk. That perfect escape. But what if that postcard image, the one we all chase, isn't the whole story? Well, let's peel back the layers and find out what's really going on. I bet you're picturing it right now. Maybe it's a place like Bukit Cinta in Labuan Bojo. You've seen the photos. You know, the turquoise water, those beautiful ships gliding by, that absolutely iconic landscape. It's the photo you post to make everyone jealous. It's the memory you're chasing. And really, that's what the entire tourism industry is selling us, a single, flawless moment of bliss.
But what if that perfect picture is hiding something? What if just outside the frame of that perfect shot, there's a totally different story unfolding?
Yeah, because behind that stunning view, you often find let's call it the messy reality of development, the constant grinding noise of construction, a real crisis for clean water as huge resorts and local communities compete for the same scarce resource. And then you have entire communities, like fishermen, who are literally being pushed out of the very places that have defined their lives for generations. Suddenly, that picture, well, it's not so perfect anymore, is it? So this huge contrast, it forces us to ask a much deeper question. I mean, let's forget the postcards for a second. What is this massive global force we call tourism, really? And to get to the bottom of that, we got to look at its core purpose. All right, let's start with the big one, maybe the most fundamental question of all. Why do we even travel? Because it's not just about where we go, right? It's about the values, the ethics that are driving the entire journey. You know, it's fascinating. You can actually see the different purposes of travel just by looking at the words themselves. Take the English word tourism. It kind of traces its roots back to the grand tour that wealthy European aristocrats used to take. It was a trip for status, for consumption, for recreation. Now compare that to the Indonesian word Pariwisata. It comes from Sanskrit and it suggests something so much deeper. It's about a holistic, all-encompassing journey, not just to see a place, but to understand it. It's a trip that's meant for personal transformation. And this idea of purpose has been shaped and, reshaped by people in power for centuries. I mean, think about it. Way back in 1365, the king of Majapahit, he traveled not for a vacation, but to tighten his grip on his empire. Fast forward to the 1950s and 60s, and President Sukarno is using these huge projects like Hotel Indonesia to build a proud, modern national identity. Then boom, the 70s hit and the purpose shifts again. All of a sudden, tourism is the smokeless industry, this incredible economic engine to bring in foreign money for development. And today, well, now the big word is sustainability, right? We're trying to balance all these competing goals at once. So, the big takeaway here, tourism is never neutral. It's really an arena, a battleground for competing values, profit versus justice, growth versus preservation, always. Okay, so if that's the why, the next big question has to be, what is tourism? Fundamentally, like what is this thing? And I think the best way to get our heads around it is to look at it through 4 totally different lenses. First up, and probably the most obvious one, is seeing tourism as an economic commodity. I mean, from this angle, it's pretty simple. It's just the sum of all the transactions, right? The hotel rooms sold, the flights booked, the tickets you buy. It's an industry, plain and simple, and we measure it in GDP, in return on investment, dollars and cents. Okay, second, you can think of it as a spatial phenomenon. Put on your geographer hat for a second. From this perspective, tourism is all about movement. It's the flow of people, sure, but also capital and information from a generating region, where travelers come from, to a destination region. It's this massive global flow connecting different parts of the world. And there's actually a model for this called the Leiper model that helps you see it really clearly. It just breaks it down into 3 key parts: where the travelers start, where they're going, and the route that connects the two. It really shows you that this is a whole system, a giant global network of human movement. But, okay, what about the people? That brings us to our third lens, seeing tourism as a social encounter. This view says that the real essence of tourism, the true heart of it, is what happens when hosts and guests come together. That interaction becomes this kind of stage where culture, identity, and even power are negotiated and played out. And finally, let's not forget the planet. The fourth lens is seeing tourism as an ecological footprint, because it's not just an interaction between people. It's an interaction between people and the environment. Tourism consumes a ton of resources: water, energy, land, And that presence can put absolutely immense pressure on fragile ecosystems, leaving a very, very real mark on the planet.
So, there you have it. Tourism is all of these things at once. It's an industry, it's a movement of people, it's a social encounter, and it's an ecological footprint. Wow. So, with all that complexity, how on earth do we even begin to understand it all? Well, that brings us to our final big question.
Basically, there are two competing ways of looking at this whole thing. First, you got the view from 30,000 feet. This is the objective, quantitative stuff. It's all about counting how many visitors, what's the contribution to GDP, what are the hotel occupancy rates. It answers one question: how many? But then there's the view on the ground. This is subjective, qualitative. This is about human stories, cultural meaning, power dynamics. This view asks the much tougher questions. What does it all mean? And crucially, who is actually impacted by all this? And here's the thing, you can't have one without the other. They're not enemies, they're partners. One view gives you the cold, hard numbers, the data. The other gives you the narrative, the human story. And you absolutely positively need both to get the full, honest picture of what tourism is really doing to a place and its people. So, okay, after peeling back all these layers, the why, the what, the how we see it, we're back where we started. What is the soul of tourism? Well, the truth is, it's not one single thing. It's a battleground, an arena of competing values. It's that constant tension between profit and justice. It's the push and pull between growth and preservation. It's the state versus the community, the visitor's perfect postcard versus the local's everyday reality. It's the global industry versus the local ecosystem. It's all of these things clashing at once. So, at the end of the day, tourism isn't just a vacation. It's not just an escape. It is, without a doubt, one of the most powerful economic, social, and ecological forces shaping our world today. Which really just leaves us with one final question for you. The next time you pack your bags for that picture-perfect getaway, just remember, you're not stepping onto a blank canvas. You are stepping into a story that's already in progress. So the question you have to ask yourself is, whose story do you become a part of? And what role are you going to play?